I kicked off the implementation, stepped away to play video games, and when I came back, the project had been finished itself. 29 tests passing, 5 clean commits, 1 per phase. I hadn't touched the keyboard. The thing doing the work wasn't me, and it wasn't a single agent either. It was one Claude session running another Claude in a terminal pane next to it. It planned the work and split it into phases. Then it spawned a worker, checked on it every 90 seconds, answered its questions, and kept it moving, all while I was somewhere else. Claude orchestrating Claude. The hands-off run took 24 minutes. The planning came first, and that's where I will start. First, the piece that makes any of this possible, the terminal. I'm using cmux. It's free, open source and built agent first, and the second part matters more than it sounds. A normal terminal is something you drive. cmux is something an agent can drive. Windows, workspaces, panes, tabs inside panes, every one of them can be created from the command line over a Unix socket. So an agent can spawn a new pane, read what's currently on its screen as text, and send it keystrokes. Type a command, hit enter, hit escape. When an agent spawns its own subagents, cmux turns them into real visible panes instead of hidden background processes. The terminal stops being a wall the agent talks at and becomes something it can reach into. And on the human side, there's a vault sidebar tracking your Claude code and Codex sessions, so when you need to find the right conversation again, it's right there. The obvious comparison is Warp, and I want to be accurate here. Warp has gone hard in this direction. Parallel agents, a whole cloud orchestration product, and as of April this year, they even open sourced the terminal client. The real difference is the AI itself. Warp bundles credits into its subscription tiers. You can pick a plan, get a monthly credit allowance, and pay for more when you run out. The free cmux doesn't add any AI on its own. It just orchestrates the agent CLIs you already have, your Claude code, your Codex, so you don't need an extra subscription on top of what you're already paying for. And to be clear, none of the workflow that follows is locked to cmux. Warp is built around parallel agent and orchestration too, so in principle you could put the same thing together there. I haven't tested it, but the pieces are there. I went with cmux because it's free and never tries to sell me anything, but pick whatever terminal you like. The pattern is what matters, and that CLI controllability is the foundation it all stands on. For a medium to large task, the workflow starts with a real plan. Which planning tool you reach for depends on the project. If it's a throwaway or a brand new project, like the little demo I'm building here, playing Grill Me with Codex is fine. I covered that one in an earlier video, link below. It interviews you about the plan, then has Codex steer into it. You can go even lighter. Turn on plan mode at high effort to get an adequate plan, then run only the second half of its own, the Codex review skill, the Codex plan review that ships in the same pack. For a real ongoing project, I'd reach for Grill Me with Ducks Codex instead. It's a different animal. It writes the project's terminology and context down as you go, so every later planning session starts from that shared understanding. Faster each time, and the plans get sharper. There's nothing worth remembering in a throwaway, so here I take the cheap road on purpose. One tip that applies to Codex review either way. Out of the box, the skill is relentless by design. Its instructions push Codex to pick at every tiny thing, and a thorough pass takes forever. So I tell it to focus only on the critical findings. On this run, that paid off immediately. Round 1 came back with 3 findings, no fluff, all of them genuine correctness bugs in the plan. And here's the part I like. The orchestrator Claude, acting as the final arbiter, accepted all 3 itself. I didn't lift a finger. Round 2 confirmed the fixes and surfaced 2 more. Round 2 was also where it stopped, and not because I told it to. Claude had quietly decided to cap the review at 2 rounds instead of the 5 the skill defaults to. For a demo with 5 solid findings already in hand, that's fine. But it's a small reminder that an autonomous agent will make its own calls, and sometimes those calls are about your settings. And that's the reason I don't always run the full Grill Me Codex on something disposable. The reconciliation can grind for 40 minutes chasing a perfect plan while you sit there unable to leave. Sometimes 10 minutes fixing only the critical stuff is the smarter trade. Before you kick off the implementation, there is one step you do not skip, and it's the cheapest insurance in the whole workflow. Read the plan. Actually read it. Make sure it covers exactly what you want built, because this is the last moment your opinion still counts for anything. Here is why it matters so much in this particular workflow. The moment you walk away during execution, you've handed over the steering wheel. If the plan is subtly wrong, a missed requirement, a wrong assumption baked into phase 1, the worker won't argue with it. It will faithfully build the wrong thing on top of a wrong foundation for the next 20 minutes, and you won't be standing there to catch it. By the time you come back, the mistake is 5 phases deep. You can still fix it later, of course, but later means redoing work and untangling a messy commit history instead of editing one line now. So review the plan right away, while it's still cheap. With the plan reviewed and locked, the next move is to turn it into a map the orchestrator can actually drive from. So before any code gets written, I tell the orchestrator to take the plan and split everything into a to-do list broken into phases with each item prefixed by the phase it belongs to. For this project that came out to 5 phases and about 15 to-do items, all sitting in front of me before a single line was implemented. That visible to-do list is the whole point. It's what turns this session from an assistant doing tasks into an orchestrator holding the full map. It always knows which phase is done, which one is next, and what each one contains. This is also the moment to skim that list one more time. Same logic as the plan. Cheaper to notice a gap here than 5 phases later. Quick break before the fun part. If you're getting something out of this, hit subscribe. It's the cheapest way to support the channel. There's a Discord in the description if you want to trade workflows with other people doing this, and a Buy Me a Coffee link if you want to caffeinate the cat. Right, back to it. Now the actual orchestration. I tell the session is the orchestrator from here on and to spin up a worker using the cmux orchestrate skill. That skill knows how to open a fresh pane and launch another agent inside it. Claude in my case, though Codex works just as well, at medium effort. Medium is plenty for implementing a plan that's already locked. The hard thinking happened during planning. This part is execution. Then the loop starts and it runs without me. The orchestrator hands the worker the plan plus phase 1's to do items and tells it to build. Then it pulls the worker pane to check progress. Every 90 seconds, an interval it shows on its own. I never gave it a number. You could push that down to 30 or 45 seconds for faster hands-off and less idle time after a phase finishes. The cost is that the orchestrator's context fills up quicker from all the checking. 90 seconds turned out to be a fine middle ground. When the worker signals a phase is done, the orchestrator doesn't just take its word for it. It independently verifies, runs the tests, checks the output, refines whatever needs refining, then commits, clears the worker's context, and feeds the next phase. Clean slate, next chunk, repeat. There is a nice economy to the split too. The orchestrator is the expensive, careful one. It holds the entire map, runs the verification, and does real work between phases. Even so, it stays light, around a third of its context window for the whole run. For planning or implementation, I'd have compacted long before that point, but managing is light enough that it sits there comfortably. Meanwhile, the heavy lifting, the actual file writing grind, happens down in the worker pane at a lower effort level. The cheap muscle does the labor. The smart manager checks the work and turns the page. And when you've got several of these going, the named tabs save you. The worker pane labels itself, mini workflow workers, so when 3 or 4 panes are running at once, you can see at a glance which one is which. This is the part that bends my brain. Normally, when you let an agent run and step away, there's a trap waiting. At some point it hits the Ask User Question tool, it needs a decision, and just stops. It sits there politely forever. You come back 20 minutes later expecting progress and find a single unanswered question and 0 work done. Anyone who's tried to walk away from an agent knows that exact feeling. The orchestrator removes the trap, once you tell it to. As part of kicking off the run, I instructed to watch the worker's questions and answer them itself, picking the most appropriate options so the worker keeps moving. It isn't automatic, it's an instruction you hand the orchestrator, and it's exactly the kind of thing you'd make into an orchestrate plan skill once you've settled on how you like it. One agent driving another, including handling the prompts that would normally pull you back to the keyboard. Pair that with the context reset between phases and the worker never stalls, waiting on you and never drowns in its own history. So that's exactly what I did. I set the recheck going and left to play some video games. No babysitting. When I came back, phase 5 was finished. 24 minutes of autonomous execution, 29 tests passing, 5 commits, 1 per phase, and it had even initialized the Git repo on its own, which I hadn't asked for. The whole project built, verified, and committed while I was doing something completely unrelated. I touched nothing once the loop was running. What you just saw was a semi-raw demo. Claude improvised a lot of the small decisions live, when to commit, how often to poll, what counts as done. The real wins come from pushing all that minutiae into the orchestrate plan skill, so it stops improvising and starts following your house rules. One I'd add, run a simplify or ponytail review pass on each phase before the worker marks it done. That's a dedicated review for trimming and simplifying the code. It gets tightened while the context is still fresh, instead of cleaned up later. It scales sideways too. For a full stack feature where front-end and back-end live in separate repos, you plan both, then have the orchestrator open one worker tab per repo and run them in parallel, checking each every so often. And none of this is locked to one model. Claude or Codex, orchestrator or worker in either direction. It's the same pattern. Pick whichever you're paying for already. So that's the workflow. Plan it properly, review the plan while review is still cheap, split it into phases, then let one Claude orchestrate another through the whole thing while you go live your life. The trick that makes it real is a boring one. A terminal an agent can actually drive, and cmux hands you that for free. If it was useful, a like genuinely helps. And as for me, my cat mastered this long ago. She assigns the task, naps through the implementation, devours whatever food appears at the end, and immediately asks for more.